The last signal, the sanctuary system had become the graveyard of hope. Admiral Thek of the Mantari Collective stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching through the viewports as thousands of refugee ships drifted in formation around the system's dying star. His compound eyes evolved to see across multiple light spectrums could make out the desperate faces pressed against the windows of civilian transports, Zephyrians, crystalline singers, plasma dancers, and dozens of other species. All that remained of a galaxy that once held trillions of souls. The Voidborn had taken everything else. These entities, beings of pure dark energy that consumed entire star systems, had swept across the galaxy like a plague of shadows. They didn't just destroy worlds, they devoured them completely, leaving behind only empty space where entire civilizations had once thrived. The most terrifying part was their intelligence. The Voidborn learned from each encounter, adapting their strategies and growing stronger with every system they consumed. Commander Crix approached the Admiral's position, his reptilian features drawn with exhaustion. The Zephyrian had lost his entire homeworld just 6 months ago, along with his family and everything he had ever known. Admiral, our scouts report no change in the perimeter. The Voidborn seem to be massing at the edge of the Helix Nebula, but they haven't moved toward us in weeks. Thek's mandibles clicked in what passed for acknowledgement among his people. They're waiting for something. The Voidborn don't hesitate unless they're planning something bigger. His voice carried the weight of someone who had watched civilizations burn. Have our analysts determined what they might be waiting for? Before Crix could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the bridge as communications officers scrambled to their stations. Admiral, called out the ship's sensor operator, a floating jellyfish-like being whose tentacles danced over her controls. Unknown vessel, approaching from the outer system. It's huge, sir. Bigger than anything in our database. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a massive ship unlike anything the assembled aliens had ever seen. It was clearly built for function over form, angular, industrial, with sections that looked cobbled together from different technologies. Massive cargo holds extended from its central hull, and weapon systems that seemed primitive by Galactic standards dotted its surface. Most notably, it bore markings in a script none of them recognized. Sir, the communications officer's voice trembled. We're receiving a transmission. Audio only in perfect Galactic standard. Put it through, Thek ordered, his warrior instincts telling him to prepare for either salvation or another threat. Clear, confident voice filled the bridge, distinctly alien to all present, yet somehow familiar in its determination. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiance, registry number UES 2847. To any surviving military commanders in the sanctuary system, please respond. We're here to help. The bridge fell silent. Earth, they had heard whispers of this species, rumors of a young civilization from the outer rim that had vanished early in the Voidborn invasion. Most assumed they had been among the first to fall, consumed before they could even understand what was happening to the galaxy. Thek activated the response channel. This is Admiral Thek of the Mantari Defense Fleet. Unknown vessel, please state your intentions and how you've survived this long without detection. The response came immediately. Admiral, requesting permission to dock with your flagship. We have critical intelligence about the Voidborn and a proposal that could change everything. Fair warning, what we have to share isn't going to be easy to believe. Hours later, the delegation from the Defiance sat around the conference table in Admiral Thek's war room. Captain Sarah Chen was smaller than most of the alien representatives, but her presence filled the room. Her dark hair was streaked with premature gray, and her brown eyes held the kind of intensity that came from staring into the abyss and refusing to blink. Beside her sat Dr. Elena Vasquez, a xenobiologist whose equipment seemed centuries ahead of anything the other species possessed. Let me be direct, Captain Chen began, her hands folded on the table. Humanity didn't disappear when the Voidborn invaded. We went dark. For the past 18 months, while the rest of the galaxy has been running and hiding, we've been studying them. Commander Crix leaned forward, his scales shifting to a skeptical blue-green. Studying them? These beings have consumed entire star systems. How could a single species that we've never heard of possibly study something that has defeated our combined fleets? Dr. Vasquez spoke up, her voice calm but filled with quiet authority. Because we approached the problem differently. Every species in this galaxy has tried to fight the Voidborn with conventional weapons, energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, even exotic matter bombs. You've been trying to destroy them using the same physics they exist within. She activated a holographic projector, filling the air above the table with complex equations and energy patterns. The Voidborn aren't truly alive in the way we understand it. They're quantum entities, beings of organized dark energy that exist partially outside normal space-time. That's why your weapons pass right through them or get absorbed. Admiral. Thek's compound eyes focused on the display. If this is accurate, then conventional warfare is impossible. They can't be defeated. That's where you're wrong. Captain Chen stood and walked to the hologram, pointing at specific energy patterns. They can be defeated, but not by fighting them in normal space. You have to disrupt their quantum coherence, essentially force them back into normal physics, where they become vulnerable. The room erupted in skeptical chittering, clicking, and various sounds of disbelief from the assembled alien representatives. A crystalline being from the Singer Coalition spoke up, her voice like wind chimes. Even if such technology existed, the power requirements would be astronomical. It would take the combined energy output of an entire star system. Dr. Vasquez smiled grimly. Which is exactly what we've built. The Defiance isn't just a ship. It's a mobile quantum resonance generator. We've been retrofitting mining vessels and industrial platforms for months, turning them into weapons that can disrupt Voidborn coherence patterns. Captain Chen activated another section of the holographic display, showing the interior structure of the Defiance. Our ship can generate a quantum interference field with a radius of approximately 10,000 kilometers. Any Voidborn caught within that field lose their ability to exist in their quantum state and become vulnerable to conventional weapons. The silence that followed was deafening. Commander Crix was the first to speak. Captain, with respect, this sounds like desperate fantasy. If humans possessed such technology, why didn't you share it sooner? Why let billions die? Sarah Chen's expression hardened. Because we needed time to build more than one ship, and because we needed to be sure it would work. The Voidborn adapt. If we had revealed our capabilities too early, they would have found countermeasures. We've been watching, waiting for them, to mass their forces for what they think will be a final attack. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring throughout the Mantari flagship. The sensor operator's voice crackled over the intercom. Admiral! Massive energy signatures detected at the edge of the system. It's them, the Voidborn. They're coming in force. The main view screen activated, showing the darkness between stars beginning to writhe and move. What had appeared to be empty space revealed itself to be filled with Voidborn entities, their dark energy forms blocking out entire sections of the star field. There were hundreds of them, each one the size of a battle cruiser, moving with purpose toward the sanctuary system. Admiral. Thek's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress among his people. All ships, battle stations, prepare for final defensive formation. He turned to Captain Chen. Human, if your technology is real, now would be the time to prove it. Sarah Chen was already moving toward the door. Dr. Vasquez, prepare the quantum resonance array. Commander Crix, I need every ship in this system to focus their fire on whatever Voidborn we force into normal space. And Admiral, she paused at the threshold, prepare your people for something they've never seen before. When we disrupt those entities, they're going to be vulnerable, confused, and very, very angry. As the Defiance powered up its mysterious systems, energy readings throughout the sanctuary system began fluctuating wildly. Whatever the humans had built, it was drawing power on a scale that defied conventional understanding. In the depths of space, the approaching Voidborn seemed to slow, as if sensing something unusual about their intended prey. The last battle for galactic civilization was about to begin, and for the first time in months, some of the refugees watching from their transport ships dared to hope. The humans had returned, and they had brought something that might just tip the balance in a war that had seemed utterly hopeless. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching as her crew made final preparations. In a few hours they would either save what remained of galactic civilization or die trying. But that was a very human thing to do, to keep fighting even when the odds seemed impossible, to find a way where others saw only death. The stars had fallen silent across the galaxy, but humanity was about to make some noise. The human gambit. The Voidborn advance was unlike anything the survivors had witnessed before. Instead of their usual chaotic swarming, the dark entities moved in perfect formation, creating geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Thek watched from his command bridge as the wall of living shadow approached, knowing that this was likely the final assault. The Voidborn had gathered their forces from across the galaxy for this moment. All defensive positions, prepare for engagement, Thek commanded. Though he knew conventional weapons would be useless, the assembled refugee fleet spread into battle formation. A pathetic collection of damaged warships, converted civilian vessels, and desperate hope. Aboard the Defiance, Captain Sarah Chen made her way through corridors filled with humming machinery that definitely hadn't been there when this was a mining ship. Her crew, all volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't survive the next few hours, worked with calm efficiency. Humans had a gift for functioning under impossible pressure. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her quantum resonance controls as Chen entered the engineering section. Captain, the array is charging, but I have to warn you. We've never tested this at full power against this many Voidborn. The energy requirements are pushing our reactors beyond safe limits. How long until we can activate it? Chen asked, checking readings on displays that showed power levels climbing toward critical thresholds. 6 minutes to full charge. But Sarah, Vasquez used her captain's first name, dropping military protocol and what might be their final conversation. Once we activate this thing, there's no shutting it down. The quantum cascade will burn out every system on the ship. We'll be dead in space. Captain Chen nodded grimly. She had known this was a one-way mission from the beginning. Elena, patch me through to all ships in the system. It's time they understood what we're asking of them. The communications array crackled to life, broadcasting on all frequencies. Chen's voice reached every refugee ship, every military vessel, every survivor who had thought their story was ending in darkness. This is Captain Chen of the UES Defiance, to all vessels in the sanctuary system. In 5 minutes, we're going to do something that's never been attempted before. We're going to force the Voidborn into normal space where you can hurt them. But I need you to understand, this is our only shot. When those entities become solid, you have to hit them with everything you've got. Every weapon, every ship, every ounce of fight you have left. On the Mantari flagship, Commander Crix listened with growing amazement. Admiral, the human ship's power readings are off the charts. Whatever they've built, it's drawing more energy than our entire fleet combined. Admiral Thek's compound eyes tracked the approaching Voidborn formation. All ships, prepare to follow. The human lead. Target any Voidborn that appear solid. He paused, then added, "It has been an honor serving with you all." The first Voidborn reached the outer edge of the system, their dark forms beginning to interact with the gravitational fields of the planets. Space itself seemed to bend around them, and several smaller asteroids simply vanished as the entities passed. Resonance array at 90%, Dr. Vasquez called out. Captain, I'm reading some kind of reaction from the Voidborn. They're slowing down. Indeed, the advancing wall of darkness had begun to hesitate. The entities seemed to sense something unusual about the energy signatures coming from the human ship. Several of the larger Voidborn shifted their approach vectors, focusing on the Defiant specifically. They know, Chen realized. They can sense what we're about to do. Elena, how much longer? 30 seconds to full charge, but Captain, look at this. Vasquez pointed to her sensors. The Voidborn aren't just slowing. They're consolidating. They're pulling together into a tighter formation. Chen's blood went cold as she understood the implications. They're minimizing their exposure to our field. These things are smarter than we thought. She grabbed the ship-wide intercom. All hands, brace for immediate activation. We're not waiting for full charge. At 85% power, Dr. Vasquez activated the quantum resonance array. The effect was immediate and spectacular. A sphere of crackling energy erupted from the Defiance, expanding at near light speed in all directions. Where the field intersected with the void-born formation, reality itself seemed to flicker. The dark entities caught in the resonance field began to solidify, their quantum coherence disrupted by the human technology. For the first time in the war, void-born became visible to normal sensors. Massive, writhing creatures that looked like living shadows given form. They were beautiful and terrifying, and most importantly, they were vulnerable. All ships, fire everything. Admiral Theck's voice boomed across the fleet communications. Every weapon in the refugee armada opened up simultaneously. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and exotic matter warheads struck the materialized void-born with devastating effect. The entities screamed, a sound that registered across multiple dimensions and sent shivers through every living being in the system. Several void-born were destroyed outright, their forms dissolving into harmless energy. Others thrashed in apparent agony as conventional weapons tore through their solidified bodies. But the victory came at a cost. The Defiance was burning itself out from the inside. Explosions rocked the ship as overloaded systems failed. Captain, Chen felt the deck plates buckling under her feet as the quantum resonance array demanded more power than the ship could safely provide. Elena, how long can we maintain the field? She shouted over the sound of failing equipment. Not long. Maybe 2 more minutes before complete cascade failure. Vasquez's hands danced over controls that were already showing critical warnings. The void-born outside the resonance field had regrouped and were launching a desperate counterattack. Dark energy lances struck the refugee fleet, destroying several ships instantly. But something had changed in the defenders. For the first time since the war began, they were winning. Ships that had been running for months suddenly turned to fight with desperate courage. Commander Crix coordinated the alien fleet's assault with tactical brilliance, directing fire at the materialized void-born while avoiding those still in quantum form. Focus on the solid ones. Don't waste ammunition on the shadows. A crystalline Singer vessel, its hull cracked and barely holding atmosphere, made a suicide run at a massive void-born that was trying to break free of the resonance field. The ship's destruction created a chain reaction that eliminated 3 entities at once. Aboard the Defiance, Dr. Vasquez looked at her failing systems with scientific fascination, even as she faced death. Sarah, the cascade is accelerating. We have maybe 60 seconds before the ship breaks apart. Captain Chen made a decision that would have seemed insane to most species, but was perfectly logical to a human. Elena, can you overload the resonance array? Make it go supernova? That would create a quantum shockwave that might disrupt every void-born in the system, but it would also destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers, including us and any nearby refugee ships. Do it. Signal Admiral Theck to pull all ships back to minimum safe distance. As the order went out for a general retreat, the refugee fleet began pulling away from the Defiance even as they continued pouring fire into the materialized void-born. The human ship was now visibly breaking apart, pieces of hull plating spinning away into space. But the quantum resonance field held steady. All ships, this is Captain Chen. It has been an honor fighting alongside you. Tell the galaxy that humanity stood with you at the end. She looked at her crew, these brave souls who had volunteered for certain death. Elena lighted up. Dr. Vasquez initiated the final overload sequence. The quantum resonance array drew power from the ship's very structure, converting matter directly into energy. The Defiance began to glow with an inner light that grew brighter and brighter. The void-born sensed what was coming and tried to flee, but it was too late. When the resonance array reached critical mass, it released a quantum shockwave that propagated through local spacetime at faster than light speed. Every void-born within the system found their quantum coherence permanently disrupted, forcing them into normal space where the laws of physics finally applied to them. The explosion of the Defiance was visible from every ship in the system, a new star being born and dying in the span of seconds. When the light faded, the Void-born fleet was gone, destroyed by conventional weapons or torn apart by the quantum shockwave itself. Admiral Thek stood in stunned silence on his bridge, sensors confirming what seemed impossible. The system was clear. The Void-born were gone. In the debris field where the Defiance had made its final stand, his ships detected several escape pods that had been ejected at the last moment. "Rescue teams, recover those pods immediately," Thek ordered. If any humans had survived, they deserved to see the victory they had purchased with their sacrifice. 3 hours later, Captain Sarah Chen sat in the medical bay of the Mantari flagship, her left arm in a regeneration cast but very much alive. Dr. Vasquez had also survived, along with 6 other crew members who had made it to the escape pods before the final cascade. "Captain," Admiral Thek approached with what passed for reverence among his people, "your species has saved us all. The Void-born fleet was their main force. With it destroyed, the scattered entities across the galaxy can be hunted down and eliminated using your resonance technology." Chen looked out through the medical bay's viewport at the refugee fleet, now reorganizing itself for the first time as hunters rather than prey. "Admiral, the technology we used was a one-shot deal. The Defiance is gone, and it will take months to build another resonance generator. Then we have months to prepare," Commander Crix interjected, entering the medical bay with data tablets covered in technical specifications. "Dr. Vasquez has been teaching our engineers how to construct quantum resonance arrays. Every major ship in the fleet will have one within 6 months." Dr. Vasquez smiled despite her exhaustion. "The beautiful thing about quantum resonance is that once you understand the principles, it scales up or down beautifully. We can build portable units, ship-based arrays, even planetary defense networks." As word of the victory spread through the refugee fleet, something remarkable happened. Ships that had been fleeing for months began forming up into organized battle groups. Species that had barely cooperated in their desperation began sharing technology and resources freely. The humans had given them more than a weapon. They had given them hope and a model of what was possible when different beings worked together. Captain Chen watched this transformation with quiet satisfaction. "You know what the really amazing part is? Back on Earth, we were still arguing about planetary politics when the Void-born invaded. It took the end of galactic civilization to teach us what we were really capable of." Admiral Thek's mandibles clicked, and what Chen had learned was amusement. "Perhaps that is why your species succeeded where others failed. You are comfortable with impossible situations." 3 months later, the first joint human-alien task force departed the sanctuary system to begin hunting down the remaining Void-born scattered across the galaxy. The ships bore mixed crews and carried quantum resonance arrays built with combined technologies that were more advanced than anything any single species had ever created. The galaxy was far from saved, but it was no longer dying. The stars had been silent for too long, but now they rang with the voices of a dozen species working together, led by the stubborn ingenuity of humanity. The Void-born had taught the galaxy to fear the dark, but humans had taught it to make light. Captain Sarah Chen, now commanding a new vessel built with the combined resources of 6 different species, stood on her bridge and smiled. The war was far from over, but for the first time since it began, she was certain they were going to win. That was the most human thing of all. The absolute refusal to accept defeat, even when the universe itself seemed determined to prove them wrong.